up, everybody? It's your girl, the Biblio Geek. And first of all, how y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? I hope y'all are doing all right. I am doing well despite the odds. Today, I want to do something a little bit different. I don't want to go off script. Usually, I write kind of a short script, and I refer to that frequently throughout the broadcast, but today I want to do something off the cuff because a while ago a good friend of mine suggested that I do a series of these videos regarding I don't want to say battle because it's not really a battle, but my life living with lupus. So I decided to start this series, and it may just be one or two of these episodes where I talk about lupus and various different things that are related to my diagnosis and how I changed my whole life and how lupus changed my whole life and how it changed my relationships. It made some of them stronger. It made some of them weaker. It ended some of them. So I think that deserves its own episode. So today I want to talk about just the beginning, really, how I was diagnosed with lupus and how I found out really what lupus was, because before diagnosis I really didn't know what it was. And there was a friend of my mother's, a really good friend of my mother's, was diagnosed with it, and because I didn't really see any outward symptoms, visible symptoms, whenever I saw her, I really didn't understand what it was. But I did know back then that it was potentially life-threatening, because this friend of my mother's was dealing with, multiple hospital visits, multiple doctor visits. She was on a ton of medication, and there were some touch and go situations with her a couple of times, actually, because of lupus. But other than that, I didn't really know what it was. Let's start back to before I was diagnosed. And at the time, I was working for a bank, and I was working in like a data entry department. The first symptom, if I can remember correctly, the first symptom I had was joint pain. Now, it started in my hands. It started in my hands, my fingers, my wrists. But keep in mind, I was working in data entry, so I just kind of chalked it up to me typing a lot. So I went out and got some wrist guards. When I got wrist guards, came back to work, still typing every day, typing all day, 8 hours a day. Was taking pain meds, but this is everybody, that's Osiris behind me. I was wearing these wrist guards, and I was still kind of typing every day and things like that, taking over-the-counter pain meds. Nothing was helping. My wrists started to get worse. The pain in my hands started to get worse. And I started to feel aching throughout my body and other joints. My knees, my feet were killing me, and my back and hips. So it was really kind of going everywhere at this point. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Now, at the time, you got to remember, I was about 24, 25. And I was sleeping on a futon. Really. I had like a futon frame with a mattress on it. And it wasn't a good mattress. So I'm thinking, it's just the mattress. The mattress isn't good. I'm not sleeping well. The futon frame, I need to get a regular, really like a proper frame and things like that. So that didn't really help either. We got a mattress for my frame. That didn't seem to help either. But meanwhile, I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm going to work every day. I'm leading a healthy life of a 24, 25-year-old. I'm going out on weekends and things like that. Now I'm noticing that I'm starting to get tired, but I'm still not thinking, there's anything wrong with me. I'm thinking I'm not getting enough sleep because of the bed that I was using. So, everything that is happening to me, I'm rationalizing it away. I'm not thinking anything weird or different is happening to me. Now keep in mind, at this time I was living with my mother. I had just started this job. I think I was about 6 months in at this job at the bank. The next thing that happened was I started losing weight. Very slowly at first. I didn't notice it at first. And then I noticed that my pants weren't fitting. So I'm thinking, great problem. I'm not even trying. I'm losing this weight. I'm not even trying. And I'm getting these compliments and everybody's like, oh, you look great. What are you doing? How are you losing the weight? And I'm like, I don't know. What ended up happening was after I started losing weight, I really lost weight. I think it happened very quickly over about a month and a half. I lost almost 2 dress sizes. It went like that. I'm still not thinking anything is wrong, right? I'm like, oh, I'm finally in the size that I want. I'm finally in. And I look at pictures from that time. I was really small, right? But I wasn't sick looking. I was just small. Then one day I was at home and I was washing my hair and my hair started to fall out. And I mean, by the handful. I could feel it slipping off my scalp. Okay. Now at this time I had chemicals in my hair, right? So this is 1996. I am 25 years old. I was suffering from these blinding headaches. And I say blinding, that I've always been prone to get migraines. But these were different. They came with tremors in my hands and loss of vision partial loss of vision in my eye. So now I'm afraid, okay, because I'm thinking, do I have a brain tumor? I could barely speak. I would be in so much pain, I could barely speak. They would come and last a week, maybe 2. I think the longest I had one, it was like off and on for almost 2 weeks. And nothing helped. So, of course, I'm thinking I have something neurological. Something is wrong. I don't know what it is. So my primary care refers me to a neurologist. We go to this neurologist. I will never forget this dude. And this guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was the absolute worst. Okay. I had 3 doctors in particular who were just the worst. And he was the first one. So my mom takes me to this neurologist. He is running behind. Okay, so I have to sit in this full waiting room while he is, running behind and he's overbooked apparently. So when he finally gets to see me, he's rushed and he's not really interested in sitting down and actually trying to figure out what my symptoms are. So he is literally like looking at my chart. He's not even looking at me. He's just looking at my chart. And he's kind of mumbling to himself like patient so-and-so. He never refers to me by name. He's like, patient so-and-so has a severe migraine symptoms. It sounds like a classic migraine. He's still not looking at me. He's like, sounds like you have a classic migraine. But then what he asks me is, are you depressed? And the question really stunned me into silence because first of all, nobody had ever asked me that. More than anything, I was afraid I was not depressed. So when he asked me that, I said, no, I'm not depressed. I'm in pain. And if I do have any depression, it's because nobody seems to know why I'm in pain and what's going on with me. So instead of giving me something for the headache, this quack writes a prescription for antidepressant meds and sends me home. That's it. That's the end of the appointment. I remember trying to fight back tears because one of the scariest things that could ever happen, I think, or I'll just say this, one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me was being seriously sick, seriously ill, and no one having any answers. The next thing that happens is my hair falls out. Okay. I don't associate my hair falling out with everything else that has happened. I'm thinking it's because of the chemicals that I have in my hair. And I mean, it wasn't just shedding hair, it was falling out. It was still falling. I was waking up in the morning and hair on my pillow. Okay, so it was leaving. My hair was leaving. I'm still not phased. I'm not phased by anything really other than I'm not phased by the hair, and because I'm not connecting it to the things that came before it. I'm not connecting it to the joint pain, the fatigue. I mean, the fatigue was not anything I had ever felt before. On some days, I couldn't raise my arms to comb my hair. I couldn't brush my own teeth. And at its worst time, I couldn't step up on a curb without assistance. It was really, really bad. I'm going to, my doctor, she has no idea what's going on. They're thinking I may have leukemia. One doctor even said when I went into the ER with a migraine, she asked me, was I pregnant? And I thought, Jesus, if this is what being pregnant feels like, no ma'am. No ma'am. The last thing that happens, and really I'm grateful that it did, because this was the thing that actually got them to consider that something was really wrong with me, like seriously wrong with me. Now keep in mind, up until this point, I had been tested for HIV, leukemia, a bone marrow sample taken out of my hip, various types of cancer. All of it was coming back negative. They could not figure out what I had. The night of, it was the Olympics, the 96 Olympics, track and field was on. Michael Johnson won and broke records with his gold shoes. Y'all remember him? And I was laying in the bed and my mom was in the room with me and we were watching it. I was super excited and I was like, amped, and we were both in my room and I had the TV on and I was watching it, and he had just broken the record, right? And I said, ooh, that boy sure can run, and then fell over and started seizing. Mom got up and called 911. They came in and Mom said that they were all over me, like they were kind of all over me. And you know how they do when they're trying to trying to take vitals and all that kind of stuff. And she said that all she could see was my feet sticking out from in between the crowd, and my feet were doing this. The next thing I remember was waking up in the ambulance. And when I woke up in the ambulance, one of the guys asked me, who was the president? And I said, George Clinton. And I'm like, why is everybody laughing? Now, while I'm admitted in the hospital, they have several specialists coming in to figure out what is wrong with me, right? At the time, my primary was this woman this is doctor number 2 of the trash doctors that I had. This woman was the meanest, most indifferent doctor I have ever had. She literally was like, I don't know what you have. I'm sorry, sorry for this man, sorry for this woman. Finally, I'm in there for a couple of days, and finally, and I may be kind of, because my mind is fuzzy, which is also a symptom of lupus. We'll get to that later. I may have gotten some of these events out of sequence, but anyway, so I'm in this hospital, and they've sent all these different doctors, all these different specialists in to, test me. I'm bruised from shoulder to wrist, okay, because of all the blood samples they've had to take and the constant monitoring of my blood pressure. So I'm just black and blue. It was July 4th weekend, right? And the day that this doctor came, it was 98 degrees outside. It was super hot. This guy walks into my room. He does not introduce himself. He has on a red, white, and blue tie for the occasion, a checkered shirt underneath, and a wool suit coat. What he had on was super loud. Okay. He walks into my room. All he says is, "Good morning." I'm like, "Good morning." I'm waiting for him to tell me who he is. He takes my file, which at this point is about this thick, and leaves. I'm on the nurse's button. I'm like, din, 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 din. And then the nurse comes running in thinking something is wrong. And I'm like, a homeless guy just came in and took my file. She says, "Oh, he's not homeless. That's Dr. Sternlead." What he does is he takes my file and I can see him out of the door of my room. So he goes, sits at the nurse's station, and he reads my file cover to cover. He doesn't speak to anyone. Finally, he comes in and he says, "My name is Dr. Sternlead." I said, "Finally, I'm a rheumatologist and I think you have lupus." And I'm like, what is lupus? So he sits down next to my bed and he says, "I'm going to ask you 12 questions. Tell me if each question is going to ask you about a different symptom. Tell me if you've had these or not." And he rattles off 12 symptoms. I had all of them. Hair loss, unexplained weight loss, rashes on my face, mouth ulcers, joint pain, fatigue, dry mouth, dry eyes, pleurisy. It's like getting a stitch in your lungs, and you can't take a deep breath. When you take a deep breath, you get a sharp pain. When I would touch something cold, my fingertips would turn blue. I had all of the symptoms. He says, "Yep, I'm pretty sure you have lupus, but I'm going to have someone come in, take another blood sample from you, and we're going to test it." And so at this point, I start to cry because I was relieved, because I had just they were telling me that earlier that week, my kidneys were shutting down. My liver was about to shut down. And I started thinking about final arrangements, which was hilarious because I didn't have nothing. I didn't have nothing to bequeath. I like to give my diaries to my best friend, my Prince poster to my sister Yvette. I mean, like, what I'm gonna give away? I didn't have nothing. I had no money. So he says, "I'll be back tomorrow. Someone's gonna come take this blood from you. I'm gonna look at it and I'll be back tomorrow." He comes back the next day and he's like, "Yep, you have lupus." He says, "You have a textbook case of lupus." Textbook. He explains to me what lupus is. So basically, it's a hyperactive immune system. Okay, so your immune system is there to fight off things that you don't need, any kind of illnesses or infection, that kind of thing. With lupus, the immune system becomes hyperactive, and really the only way I can explain it is it becomes confused. While your immune system is still doing what it's supposed to do, like fighting off viruses and infections, it also is fighting off the things you need, like your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your brain, your bones. In my case, my immune system was attacking my kidneys. And that's why my kidneys were not functioning the way they were supposed to function. And they were like, if it gets any worse, you're going to have to go on dialysis. And if it keeps getting worse, you're going to need a kidney transplant. Once he diagnosed me, he was like, "Now we have the work to do. This is where the real work begins. We need to find out what kind of medication regimen works for you that will keep you from going into a flare-up," which is what you had. The flare-up was the joints, all the symptoms, the kidney shutting down, the hair falling out, all of that, right? He starts me off with a sledgehammer dose of prednisone. Let me tell you something about prednisone. Prednisone is the devil. I hate it. I hate what it represents. I hate what it does to me. Hate, hate, hate. I have been on prednisone for I'm still on it. I'm still on prednisone, but I'm on such a small dose now that it really doesn't matter. And your body, from what my doctors have told me, your body kind of produces its own prednisone, but it's such a small amount. Prednisone has its own symptoms, its own side effects. Okay? Extreme weight gain, mood changes, headaches, personality disorder, vivid, horrifying nightmares, and you're hungry all the time. Talk about roid rage. That is real. Prednisone is the devil, but it was working. It was at least stopping my immune system from doing this, right? Because that's what it had been doing for the past year, maybe even longer. I think, because when I think back of how long I had the symptoms, I had some of those symptoms for 5-10 years. They finally got me on all this prednisone and all this kind of stuff, but I was miserable. Now, honey, I'm bald. I had severe muscle weakness, and now I'm fat. I want to say I was close to 300 pounds, and it happened fast. It happened really fast. So yeah, I was a real, I was a mess. I was unhappy with the weight. I was unhappy with the weight. I was unhappy with my hair my hair being gone. I was unhappy with a lot of things. So now, Mr. Neurologist, I am depressed. I'm going into rages because I'm on this prednisone. I'm always in my feelings. I'm snapping at everybody. I'm snapping at mama. I'm tearing up stuff in the house. I'm just a real joy to be around. I ended up leaving the bank eventually. I ended up leaving the bank, and I started getting better, and then I was working at my mom's African dance company. So my mom has Kothi Dance Company in Milwaukee, and I was working there. I was the grant writer. She hired a woman named Kathy and I became friends. And she was like, a friend of mine has MS. She's been going to this holistic doctor. And she was like, maybe you should go and see her. And I was like, holistic doctor, because at that time I was like, no, this stuff I got is serious. Like I need the Western medicine for this. This ain't going to be fixed by no incense and crystals. This not, ma'am, no ma'am. Like this is, you need to put chemicals to this. And she was like, girl, that's not what I mean. This woman, she went to medical school. She knows what she's talking about. You should totally go see her. So I go to this place called Jensen Health and Energy Clinic. And I meet Dr. Jan Jensen. And when I tell you she was an angel sent down from heaven, the first time I went to see her, she was just like, we're just going to talk. She asked me everything, and I told her everything, and she was amazing. And really, it was because of her and Dr. Sternley working together that, I got better. But I'm going to talk about the doctors and stuff in another episode. So I just want to kind of leave it at that right now. But I'll be back again with another video. Next time, I want to talk about the doctors and the problematic way I was diagnosed. So thank you guys for tuning in with me. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to hit like and to subscribe to my channel and share it, please. And invite, if you know someone with lupus, or if you yourself have lupus, please comment below. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know, if you had a similar experience than I did. We're going to talk about at some point, we're going to talk about best practices and things like that too. So this is going to be an open conversation. I want to hear from you guys. Okay. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys later.